Are you curious about the mark of genuine intelligence? It isn't found in someone reciting Marcus Aurelius during casual conversation or deploying complex vocabulary to dominate a discussion. It resides in the individual who discerns the appropriate moments for speech versus silence. The one capable of disengaging without generating conflict, safeguarding their tranquility as paramount, and selecting their confrontations deliberately. Stoicism instructs that authentic wisdom operates quietly. It requires no self-validation. True intelligence isn't about possessing encyclopedic knowledge, it's about discerning what to sidestep. Discerning individuals aren't merely pursuing information. They are cultivating serenity. They've grasped that not every matter warrants their energy expenditure. Not every remark necessitates a response. Not every environment is worth entering. And significantly, not every association merits a place within the inner circle of their mind. This presentation aims not at showcasing cleverness or impressing others. It focuses on functional wisdom, the kind that enables you to conduct yourself with understated assurance and achieve restful sleep. If you aspire to an existence characterized by greater ease, lucidity, and self-command, you have arrived at the appropriate destination. Select subscribe, activate the notification alert, and let's delve into the 10 behaviors discerning individuals consciously avoid, and how this understanding could potentially transform your own experience. 1. They sidestep fruitless arguments. Intelligent people bypass fruitless arguments, not because they are inactive, but because they've learned, often through difficult lessons, that the majority of disputes have little connection to accuracy and are primarily driven by self-importance. At a certain juncture, you recognize the person vociferating opposite you isn't attempting to comprehend your viewpoint. They are striving to prevail. And if you engage, you're not just squandering time, you're surrendering your tranquility, your vitality, and your inner equilibrium to someone inherently unreceptive from the outset. Stoicism offers a precise, almost clinical insight here. You aren't obligated to participate in every dispute you're invited into, and it extends beyond merely choosing peace over conflict. It's about opting for clarity over chaos. I once had a colleague who relished confrontation. Every team meeting transformed into a contest. Even minor proposals escalated into debates. Initially, I felt compelled to defend my position to refute any perception of error. Yet the more I engaged, the more depleted I became. Then I began observing not only what he articulated, but why. His critiques were never genuinely about the subject matter. They were subtle maneuvers for power, designed to provoke and establish dominance. That marked a significant turning point. I ceased responding to every challenge. I allowed him the final statement, not because he was correct, but because reacting yielded no benefit for me. Something unexpected transpired. The dynamic shifted. Unable to elicit a reaction, he lost command of the contest he was attempting to orchestrate. From a psychological standpoint, individuals prone to constant argumentation are frequently motivated by insecurity. They seek control because they feel internally out of control. They mistake dominance for respect. But discerning individuals, particularly those versed in Stoic philosophy, understand better. They recognize that control isn't achieved by overpowering others. It's achieved through self-mastery. Choosing not to argue doesn't imply weakness or incapacity. It signifies that you've assessed the situation. You've weighed the cost of engagement and concluded that your peace holds greater value than validating a point. Intelligent people don't require correctness in every exchange. They require centeredness, focus, and freedom from the emotional turmoil others attempt to draw them into. That isn't avoidance, it's discipline, a form of quiet strength that leaves the clamor behind and progresses with clarity. And that is the essence of Stoicism. Not merely enduring the world, but remaining unperturbed within it. 2. They refrain from overexplaining themselves. A depleting form of unease arises from persistently overexplaining oneself. The reasons behind a choice, the rationale for declining, why one's life deviates from the narrative others anticipated. Many engage in this without awareness, propelled by a subconscious need for acceptance, understanding, or at least mitigation of harsh judgment. However, intelligent individuals learn to counteract this impulse. They comprehend that justifying oneself to unreceptive listeners doesn't foster understanding. It opens the door to influence. The more you rationalize your path, the more opportunity you provide others to question it, reshape it, or find fault with it. This behavior is deeply intertwined with a psychological requirement for external validation. When feeling uncertain, when choices haven't been fully embraced internally, confirmation is sought externally. But the Stoic mind identifies this for what it is, a snare, because the reality remains, regardless of the eloquence of your explanation, someone will inevitably fail to grasp it, judge you nonetheless, or twist your words to align with their preconceived notions. Living freely becomes impossible if you're perpetually managing others' perceptions. Stoicism teaches that peace originates from within, not from external comprehension. Epictetus stated, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish." Allow that sentiment to resonate. The objective isn't to be perceived as correct. It's to be congruent with oneself. Intelligent individuals prioritize internal alignment above external approval. They understand that maintaining a degree of mystery isn't a weakness. Let others speculate. Let them assume, because once you cease over-explaining, you begin to reclaim your personal authority. Your choices start speaking for themselves. And that silence, that confident self-restraint, carries more influence than any lengthy justification ever could. 3. They avoid being the most vocal in the room. There's a certain tiring quality associated with the constant compulsion to be acknowledged. Some individuals wear this need like a shield, occupying every pause, interrupting others, ensuring their viewpoint controls the space. Superficially, it resembles assurance, perhaps even authority, but beneath the surface, it frequently conceals profound self-doubt. The most vocal person isn't necessarily the one with the firmest belief. Often, it's the one who dreads being ignored. Intelligent individuals grasp this. They've learned that genuine impact doesn't stem from increasing volume, it stems from enhancing one's bearing. And frequently, the most authoritative demeanor is the one requiring no competition for notice. Imagine a meeting where one participant speaks incessantly, transforming every point into a self-presentation, while another listens quietly, absorbing information. The vocal individual might capture attention momentarily, but when decisions are finalized, it's the quiet observer who speaks last, measured, composed, and often possessing the clearest insight. This isn't coincidental, it's self-mastery. Intelligent individuals understand the value of observation. They recognize that silence isn't void, it's opportunity. Opportunity to think, comprehend, and respond from a position of clarity, not impulse. Psychologically, the urge to dominate conversations often arises from a delicate sense of self. Individuals who speak constantly are frequently attempting to validate their intellect in real time, hoping the resonance of their own voice will silence internal uncertainties. Stoic philosophy proposes a distinctly different approach. The Stoics believed a clear mind requires no external noise. If secure in your values, confident in your reasoning, and liberated from the urge to prove yourself, then calmness becomes your inherent mode. You listen not due to a lack of contribution, but because expressing everything isn't necessary. This doesn't imply perpetual silence or refraining from speaking entirely. It means selecting words with deliberation, speaking when impactful, and crucially, allowing your conduct to convey meaning. In a world clamoring for notice, stillness emerges as a unique form of power. The Stoic doesn't pursue attention, they command respect. Intelligent individuals feel no need to dominate the room because they've already mastered the singular element that truly matters, themselves. And once that mastery is achieved, volume becomes inconsequential. Your calmness resonates more profoundly than any noise ever could. 4. They avoid people who deplete their energy. There exists a type of fatigue, not manifesting physically, but settling within the psyche, caused not by excessive labor or insufficient sleep, but by specific individuals. People who don't resort to shouting or conflict, but gradually deplete you through persistent pessimism, inducing guilt, or consistently centering every interaction around themselves. Intelligent individuals learn to identify this depletion early. They understand their vitality isn't an unlimited resource available for anyone's consumption. Eventually, they learn to guard it zealously because it holds inherent value. Consider Anna, for example, a considerate, competent woman in her 50s who had consistently fulfilled the role of the strong figure within her family. Her younger sister, Melissa, would phone almost daily, not for connection, but to lament about her employment, her former spouse, the neighbor's pet, even the meteorological conditions. Initially, Anna listened with patience. She provided counsel, support, occasionally even financial assistance, yet the pattern remained unchanged. Regardless of Anna's generosity, Melissa consumed more. It was perpetually insufficient, and when Anna established boundaries, requesting less frequent calls or a shift towards positivity, Melissa accused her of selfishness, of abandonment. This emotional struggle began impacting Anna's health. Her sleep quality declined. Her patience wore thin. She observed that following each conversation, she felt diminished, as if a thread had been pulled from the very fabric of her well-being. It was then she turned to a philosophy she had recently started exploring: Stoicism. A particular passage from Marcus Aurelius resonated deeply. You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't need to upset you. She realized she wasn't obligated to fix Melissa. She didn't need to continually demonstrate love through self-sacrifice. Her obligation lay in protecting her energy for her own peace, her own sanity. So, she made a quiet yet radical choice. She didn't sever ties completely, but strategically withdrew. She limited call frequency. She ceased responding immediately. And crucially, she relinquished the associated guilt. Because genuine love isn't defined by constant availability, it's defined by mutual respect. Anna began to experience relief. She engaged more in reading, walking, smiling. Her peace returned not because Melissa transformed, but because Anna herself did. This is what intelligent individuals comprehend. Not everyone merits privileged access to your mind and heart. You can care profoundly, yet still assert enough. You can love someone, yet still shield yourself from their chaos. That isn't coldness, it's clarity. It's stoicism in practice. 5. They avoid boasting. A subtle distinction exists between self-assurance and overcompensation. Intelligent individuals discern precisely where this line falls. They've learned that those who persistently discuss their accomplishments, prosperity, or intellect are seldom communicating from a position of strength. More frequently, they are attempting to persuade their own minds. Boasting isn't an indicator of success. It's a manifestation of self-doubt disguised as assurance. The compulsion to validate oneself openly usually arises from a deeper fear of internal inadequacy. The Stoics understood this long before contemporary psychology articulated it. They believed authentic power doesn't proclaim itself. It moves quietly with restraint and permits results to speak more forcefully than ego ever could. Consider David, a financial advisor in his early 60s, who had unobtrusively built a successful life, characterized not by extravagant vehicles or name-dropping, but by presence. Within a gathering of professionals, he might initially go unnoticed. He didn't command attention through volume or self-promotion. Yet, when he spoke, others listened, not because he flaunted qualifications or recited his client roster, but because his words were calm, thoughtful, and grounded. Others at the table might enumerate accomplishments like accolades. David refrained. He posed questions. He listened attentively. And effortlessly, he became the most trusted individual present. What distinguished David was self-assurance, not the performative variety, but the kind forged through experience and reflection, the Stoic kind. Boasting, conversely, betrays a desperate craving for recognition. It seeks applause before delivering tangible value. But intelligent individuals, those shaped by hardship, failure, and introspection, understand that a vocal exterior often conceals an internal void. They require no listing of victories because their objective isn't approval, it's meaning. Psychologically, boasting fosters distance. It repels others rather than attracting them. It compels comparison and implicitly suggests the listener's inferiority. Humility, however, invites connection. It equalizes the space between individuals and fosters an environment where others feel secure sharing their own narratives. Stoicism isn't about diminishing oneself. It's about mastering the impulse to prove. When living in alignment with personal values, one's life becomes the testament. Self-promotion becomes unnecessary. That embodies the quiet strength intelligent individuals possess. The capacity to allow silence to build trust and actions to convey truths no speech ever could. If you found these insights valuable, let me know by commenting yes below. Your thoughts matter, and I'd love to hear from you. 6. They avoid complaining without taking action. Complaining without subsequent action represents one of the most insidious forms of self-undermining. It creates a semblance of progress, suggesting something is being addressed, when in reality, it merely cements a feeling of powerlessness. Many succumb to this pattern unknowingly. They articulate issues, perceived inequities, others' shortcomings, or unfavorable circumstances. Yet nothing changes because the words remain solely expressive. No forward step is initiated. No adjustment occurs. It devolves into a cycle. Frustration, complaint, repetition. Intelligent individuals learn to identify this early and interrupt the pattern, not due to coldness or lack of emotion, but because they grasp that energy is limited, and complaining depletes it rapidly. The psychology underlying persistent complaining often stems from a desire to be acknowledged, to feel validated in one's discomfort. This need is understandable. However, over time, if action doesn't follow, complaining becomes a dependency. It gratifies the ego while undermining volition. This is where Stoicism establishes a clear distinction. Feeling pain is permissible, but the crucial element is the response. A Stoic doesn't deny discomfort, they analyze it. They pose the transformative question: is this within my sphere of control? That question serves as a filter. If the answer is negative, the complaint ceases there. It is released, not endlessly rehearsed. If the answer is affirmative, the subsequent natural question arises: what action can I take? This reflects the thought process of intelligent individuals. They don't reject emotion, but neither do they dwell excessively within it. They understand that complaining, when utilized appropriately, functions as a signal, not a final stop. It indicates points of friction, areas of imbalance. But once identified, the responsibility for action shifts to the individual. Stoicism teaches that clarity arises from discipline. One doesn't endlessly discuss problems. One decides upon the next course of action. And if no action is feasible, one moves forward with dignity. Complaining without action is mere noise. Intelligent individuals, guided by reason and grounded in calm, choose instead to act or to release. That is what lends weight to their presence, not their words, but their capacity to live them. 7. They avoid oversharing plans prematurely. A latent risk exists in premature disclosure, particularly concerning personal objectives. Announcing a new venture, a career transition, or a personal transformation often feels innocuous, even stimulating. However, what commences as zeal can swiftly invite expectations, censure, and unwanted advice. The more individuals are privy to your intentions, the greater their expectations become. Worse still, the more you feel obligated to perform, not for personal fulfillment, but for their validation. Intelligent individuals recognize this mental snare. They've learned that revealing plans early doesn't foster responsibility. It generates impediments. And amidst such interference, focus can fragment. Oversharing frequently originates from insecurity masked as ambition. It represents a quiet appeal for validation. You articulate goals aloud, hoping others will offer encouragement, believe in you, lend a greater sense of reality. But Stoic wisdom advocates the contrary. It reminds us that approval, especially sought prematurely, can sabotage progress. Receiving praise before completing the work delivers a false sense of reward to the mind. Accomplishment is felt before being earned. This temporary boost in confidence often diminishes the drive to act. Talk increases while action decreases, and when challenges inevitably arise, the same individuals who initially applauded now pose questions you're unprepared to address. Stoics like Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius would counsel against pursuing acclaim, not because praise is inherently negative, but because it diverts attention from purpose. They believed excellence develops quietly, shielded from the clamor of others' opinions. Working discreetly builds a foundation resistant to external doubt. Motivation originates internally, not reactively. This explains why intelligent individuals tend to hold their plans closely, not out of secrecy, but from respect for the process, personal growth, and inner peace. They allow results to speak, understanding that genuine progress requires discipline, space, and patience, not a spotlight. And within that quiet dedication lies something far more potent than any proclamation could provide: enduring change achieved on personal terms. That exemplifies Stoicism in action, not loud but profoundly effective. 8. They avoid people who disregard boundaries. A specific form of damage exists that leaves no physical marks yet gradually erodes self-perception. It occurs when someone persistently disregards your established boundaries. They might dismiss it lightly, term it a jest, or feign unawareness, but over time, it conveys an unmistakable signal. Your comfort, principles, and personal space lack respect. Intelligent individuals cease tolerating such behavior promptly. They understand that the company kept influences more than just time allocation. It impacts mindset, energy levels, and personal development. And if someone continually transgresses limits, however subtly, they reveal their true character. Consider someone who routinely treats your refusal as negotiable, appears unannounced, pressures you into commitments, or makes remarks you've explicitly asked them to cease. Initially, it might seem harmless, but repeated boundary violations aren't accidental. They are declarations. They represent subtle bids for control, testing the extent of self-surrender before you assert yourself or acquiesce. This is where Stoicism provides potent clarity. Seneca urged association only with those who elevate us, fortify our virtues, not challenge our limits. From a psychological perspective, individuals disregarding boundaries often seek power. Consciously or otherwise, they desire to bend others to their will, thereby affirming their own significance. However, intelligent individuals grounded in self-respect don't engage in explanations or negotiations regarding established lines. They don't attempt to rectify the other person's behavior. They simply withdraw, recognizing that repeated disrespect isn't a misunderstanding. It's a consistent pattern. Choosing who gains access to you isn't selfish, it's prudent. It's the method for safeguarding your time, emotional energy, and dignity. When someone demonstrates an inability to honor your boundaries, intelligent individuals don't argue. They depart quietly, firmly, and without regret. That is how peace and personal power are maintained. If you found these insights valuable, let me know by commenting yes below. Your thoughts matter, and I'd love to hear from you. 9. They avoid the constant need to be right. The urge to perpetually be correct often stems from a deeper emotional requirement to be perceived as capable, esteemed, or authoritative. Yet the reality is, no one truly benefits from constantly striving to validate an assertion. It might feel like a momentary triumph, but it results in damaged self-esteem, tense connections, and a reputation that alienates others. Intelligent individuals identify this pitfall and opt for a different approach. They understand that correctness isn't invariably the paramount objective in any given situation. Sometimes, demonstrating kindness, maintaining silence, or simply permitting others to hold differing views proves far more impactful. A compelling illustration comes from the life of Fred Rogers, widely known as Mr. Rogers. Behind the gentle voice and characteristic cardigans resided a profoundly principled man capable of easily out-arguing most individuals if he chose. He possessed intelligence, education, and eloquence. Yet what rendered him memorable wasn't his aptitude for correcting others, but his deliberate refusal to do so during interviews and conversations. Even when confronted by individuals disagreeing with him or dismissing his gentle philosophy, he never contested to assert correctness. He listened attentively. He responded calmly, and above all, he demonstrated respect even when it wasn't reciprocated. Fred Rogers famously testified before the U.S. Senate in 1969, advocating for public television funding. The interrogator, Senator John Pastore, began the hearing impatiently and unsupportively. However, instead of attempting to overwhelm him with statistics or forceful rhetoric, Rogers spoke softly, reciting lyrics from one of his songs and explaining the emotional education children derived from his program. His demeanor remained consistent. He didn't argue or attempt to overpower the senator. He stayed grounded, and by the hearing's conclusion, the initially skeptical senator, now visibly affected, responded simply, "I think it's wonderful. Looks like you just earned the $20 million. Rogers secured that victory not through force, but by prioritizing peace above pride. This encapsulates the core teaching of Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius stated, "You always own the option of having no opinion." This doesn't imply indifference. It signifies possessing the wisdom to choose tranquility over pointless friction. One can value truth without employing it as a weapon. Intelligent individuals don't fear being misunderstood. They fear squandering energy on arguments lacking future significance. They recognize that ego might crave the final word, but wisdom discerns when silence resonates more profoundly. 10. They avoid emotional reactivity. Emotional reactivity represents one of the swiftest methods for forfeiting command, not merely over a circumstance, but over oneself. Responding out of rage, self-protection, or exasperation isn't acting with prudence. It's ceding authority to whatever or whoever provoked the reaction. Intelligent individuals learn this lesson early. They comprehend that not every provocation warrants a response, and not every feeling must translate into action. Instead, they employ the interval, the quiet moment between impetus and reaction that distinguishes the hasty from the deliberate. This isn't about suppressing emotion. It's about preventing emotions from dictating behavior. A crucial distinction exists. Emotions are natural, even essential, but becoming enslaved by them impairs clear thinking. Decisions are made that incite regret. Words are spoken that cannot be retracted. Situations escalate that could have been calmly de-escalated. And once such damage occurs, repair becomes difficult. This is why intelligent individuals highly value maintaining composure. They refuse to allow another's chaos to become their own. From a psychological viewpoint, emotional reactivity often stems from a lack of internal stability. When self-assurance is lacking, when inner work remains undone, every minor challenge feels like a significant threat. The body tenses, the mind constricts, and the instinctive response is defense. But Stoic philosophy teaches the opposite strategy. It asserts that true strength resides in discipline, not domination, that the calmest individual in the room typically possesses the most control, not just over others, but over themselves. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." In other words, the emotion isn't the core issue. The reaction to it is. Intelligent individuals take this principle to heart. They pause, reflect, and then carefully choose their response, not from weakness, but from mastery. And within that stillness, they discover something rare. Power that doesn't shout, doesn't lash out, doesn't crumble, just steady, unshakable presence. That is what separates the reactive from the wise. That is Stoicism lived. So here is the truth, plain and powerful. Intelligence isn't gauged by the volume of speech, impression made, or achievements attained. It lies in what you consciously choose to distance yourself from. The drama, the noise, the ego traps, the emotional downward spirals. Authentic wisdom thrives in restraint. in disengaging when argument seems easier, in maintaining calm when eruption feels simpler, in protecting your peace as if it were your very life. Because in many respects it is. If this presentation sparked something within you, retain it. Allow it to influence how you navigate the world. Don't merely observe and move on. Reflect, reclaim. And if you know someone who could benefit from this message, share it. Perhaps you'll be the catalyst for their increased ease today. Indicate your alignment with this path by commenting below with, "I choose peace." And if this resonated, please like the video, subscribe, and activate the notification bell so you won't miss the next installment of Stoic Clarity. Let's continue building this space collaboratively, a place where intelligence doesn't shout but listens, a community where wisdom isn't merely admired, it's actively lived. Stay grounded, stay focused, and as always, stay stoic.